Maybe that's 7 o'clock, just gone. Welcome to tonight's planning committee meeting, Tuesday, 13th of August 2024. Just a few housekeeping rules before we start. We've got no planned fire drills for tonight, but if there is a fire drill sound to be heard, please make your way to the nearest exit, please, be guided by staff, and reach the assembly point at the rear of the building here. But the Victoria staff. Without further ado, I open up the agenda this evening. First, we have apologies. Do you have any apologies?
Oh, Jen, yeah, I'm substituting for Japanese.
Thank you. Any further apologies?
I would say
None noted. Thank you very much. Declarations of interest. Receive any declarations of interest from members on items included on the agenda this evening. One that I'm aware of, and that's me. I've got an interest in item number 5, which is the application for major development of Nutter Community Centre. I'm a member of the Aspire board, so at that point I'll hand over the chair to my deputy, Nick, who will take proceedings for that item. So moving on to, is there any more declarations of interest before I move on? No? Okay. Minutes of the previous meeting. To consider the minutes of the previous meeting, do we accept that's a true and accurate record of proceedings that evening? If so, please show of hands. Thank you. Have you got an objection to the minutes? You're in agreement?
Sorry, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Item 4, application for major development, Red Line Farm, High Street, Piracy Head. Leave us a few jobs. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So this application seeks planning permission for a replacement cow shed and hay storage barn at Red Line Farm, which is located on High Street in Piracy Head. So this is the location plan for the site. High Street is located to the east, which links to the farm by the existing agricultural track. Now this is the site layout. The drawing on the left is the existing layout, and the one on the right is the proposed layout. So the larger building that you can see is the replacement cow shed, and the smaller building, which is positioned closer to the dwellings, is the new hay store. This is the elevation drawing for the cattle shed. So it's a large dual pitch building, measures 32 metres by 47 metres in plan. Materials are to be timber cladding with cement block roof. These are the details of the proposed hay barn, which is more modest in scale. It measures 50 metres, about 19 metres on the plan, and its materials are to match the larger structure. So this is a photo from south of the site, looking at one of the existing barns to be demolished, which is just to the right. It's not an easy site to get photos of. The barn can't be seen from any highways or public vantage points. So there's been no objections to the proposal from local residents, and officers consider the visual and community impacts of the proposal are acceptable. So subject to the conditions requested from the Highways Authority, Coal Mining Authority, and the Leeds Flood Authority, the application is brought to the committee for the recommendation for approval.
Thank you, Charles. In which case, I'll open it up to members. Any members wishing to speak on the site? Councillor Field.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It's not a handsome building, but then, judging by the photographs we've seen, what it's replacing is not handsome either. Given that there's no visual impact for the general public here, and I'm assuming that this is something necessary to make sure that the business flourishes, I'm happy to propose that we accept the recommendations as printed.
Thank you, councillor Pearson.
Thanks.
Thank you, councillor. Been formally proposed and seconded. Is there any counter arguments? Councillor Gordon.
It's not a counter argument, Chair, just a point of clarification, actually. That's on the public right of way. I just want to get established, will the applicant be told that he or she must apply for permission to shift the public right of way before work starts? And should that not be in the conditions attached to approval?
Yeah, so with the public's right, we do look at them when it comes to assessments, but the public rights of way and planning are two separate regimes. One, not necessarily given the right to affect the other. So what we normally do in these cases is that we add an informative to the decision notice, essentially saying that they need to contact the public rights of way officer and then submit a separate application to do that. So we'll include that on any decision notice that it kind of falls out of our direct control. Thank you.
Any further comments? I'll move it to the vote. It's been formally proposed and formally seconded. Let's see a show of hands in support of it. So that's approved. And that's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. At which point I'll retire from the room and my colleague, councillor Chris, will take over proceedings.
Thank you, Chair. So we've got item 5, which is the application for major development in Nutton, in the Nutton Community Centre, and we have a speaker as well. But Charles, we go.
Thank you. So this application seeks full planning permission for the creation of 21 residential dwellings at the former community centre in. So the application site is located within a central area of Nutton, with Lower Millhouse Lane being located to the northwest. Access to the site would be from High Street, close to the existing access point. So this is the layout for the site. The proposal would comprise largely of semi-detached properties with one detached property. Central road was the properties and all flows would meet the necessary parking standards. This is the adopted highways map, which covers the majority of the site, except for some of the parking areas. It's only a small distance for future residents to travel in order to plan for their example collection. Here we have some of the example house types. So all properties with 2-story in height, and constructed of red brick with slate roofs. Window detailing is to be completed in artificial stone. So the properties contain detailing on their side elevations as well, which will help to ensure that there's no blank images. So here are some photos of the site, the existing houses in the background. As you can see, the majority of the land is made up of existing hard standing. More as well. And this is a photo showing the existing access to the site. So there's no issues in principle to the proposed development, given that it would utilise a brownfield site within an existing open area of the borough. All proposed properties would be affordable. In respect of developer contributions, an up-to-date viability report has been provided with the application, which concludes the scheme would not be viable with any contributions to off-site open space. So this viability assessment has been reviewed by an independent valuer at the request of officers, and it was confirmed by the valuer that the findings of the viability assessment were accurate. So whilst it's unfortunate that there would not be any contributions as a result of the development, it's important to note that the scheme will still bring with it a number of benefits, including a good contribution to the council's standard supply and the provision of affordable housing in a sustainable location. So there's no outstanding objections for any consultees, and the application is therefore brought to the committee with the recommendation for approval.
Okay, and we have a speaker, I believe. Next stage.
Thank you, Chair, for allowing me to address the committee this evening. My name is Laura Jones-Campbell, and I'm the Development and Regeneration Manager at Aspire Housing. Aspire is a leading provider of social housing based within Newcastle-under-Lyme. Our aim is to make a positive, lasting difference to individuals and communities by providing a range of high range of quality affordable homes. We're excited about the opportunity to deliver essential new affordable housing on a site which has been identified by the council as being both deliverable and sustainable for such uses. Alongside our recent approval at High Street site in Norton, we hope the two schemes demonstrate our commitment to bringing forward much needed affordable housing and assisting with the overarching aspirations that set out within the adopted Norton Master Plan. We welcome your officer's recommendation to approve the planning application for delivery of 21 joinings, confirming that the scheme represents a sustainable development on a key brownfield site and has been sat vacant and underused for a number of years. The scheme in front of you today is a product of a number of months' hard work from both Aspire's and the council's teams. We undertook extensive pre-application engagement, which helped the submission of a formal planning application. Since that date, we've engaged meaningfully and proactively with finances and other key stakeholders to ensure that the scheme before you is policy compliant and designed to the highest quality. The scheme presented today provides a development which responds to its surroundings, provides much needed affordable housing, and can be appropriately accommodated on the site without causing detrimental harm to existing residents. As your officer's report notes, all technical planning matters have been appropriately dealt with as part of the application submission. There are no technical grounds upon which to support refusal of the application. In particular, we demonstrated that the proposal will not have a significant impact on the surrounding highways network and that appropriate and safe access has been provided into and out of the site. The sites can also be appropriately drained. As the officer notes, the scheme will deliver various social and economic benefits on site. Replanting and biodiversity enhancements have been proposed, and other environmental objectives will be secured, all working towards ensuring that the three overarching objectives of sustainable development will be achieved. To conclude, the scheme represents a positive investment on a key brownfield site, which has been designed to ensure it's sympathetic to its surroundings, whilst creating a high-quality scheme that significantly improves aesthetics of the surrounding area and provides much-needed affordable housing within Newcastle-under-Lyme. Thank you for your time today, and we hope you support this much-needed redevelopment of this key site within Norton. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Shall we open up the debate? Councillor Beard.
Thank you very much, Councillor Chris. I would like to move the recommendations that we see in front of us. Looking at this site, it really does tick an awful lot of boxes. Council's priority has been to prioritise development on brownfield sites. This is a brownfield site. As has been pointed out, it's lain derelict for a substantial number of years now. And this brings back into use a set of land. It's a little bit regrettable that the viability survey shows that there can't be contributions, but we must set that, I think, against the fact that all of these houses are going to be affordable houses in an area which very much needs such housing. So I think that, again, is a major plus. Some people have raised with me questions about the highways, but again, I've had a look at what the Highways Authority have said. Looking at the data that we've seen in the report, if that's correct, the movements here are not going to be any greater than they were when it was a community centre. So I can't see really how we could object to this development on those grounds. Therefore, because it is brownfield development in a good place with affordable homes, I feel there's no reason to object to this, and I would like to move the recommendation.
Councillor Williams, did you want to say something?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chairman. This affordable home just falls off the tongue. Affordable for who? You see that 25% affordable, all of them affordable. For all the affordable rent, how many of these properties will be affordable rent? Ask the same question, the planning application up in the village. The officer got back to me, been in touch with the developer, they didn't know. They say they're all affordable. How many are going to be rented, affordable rented? How many are going to be sold off to the private housing market? Really, it's important, and it's been mentioned by Councillor Peter in this particular area. There's a need for family homes. For family homes that people can afford pay the rent, affordable rent, such as the housing associations charge. Not the private ones. And in the past, we've seen developments with the same percentage of affordable, I'd say, along come the private rented sector, buy 20 homes straight out, and then rent them out as affordable homes, charging more rent than the housing association. Or housing society. So that's my concern. What percentage of these properties are going to be affordable renting?
Yeah, so fortunately, similar to the other one, the developers put in this case that those details would be addressed through a condition. So typically, affordable housing provision is either controlled to section 106 agreement or planning condition. In this case, it's going to be a condition and it's ready permission, which could require those kind of details to be submitted to the local authority and then involves us to then obviously approve that or ask for additional information. So I couldn't give you the exact numbers at the moment. You'd have to wait until that condition application comes to the.
That's all.
Thank you for coming on. It's not good enough, Mr. Chairman, but we don't know what percentage of houses is going to be affordable renting in the site of the road of this particular site. We should be given that information for the planning so we can actually make a really good decision on this development. I'm not against this development, it's welcomed in the area. But again, let's have the details from the developer. What are how many affordable rented houses will be? Thank you.
Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to echo everything that my colleague Councillor Clear said and to second his motion that the application be approved, recommendations as printed. In relation to what we've just heard from Councillor Williams, I think there is a well-established accepted definition of affordable housing which is available to him. I think he knows that. And I think that if you want to see cheaper rents in this borough, and you want to see cheaper housing in this borough, we need to build housing. This, to me, is an ideal site. It's a brownfield site. We should have more houses. We need more houses. We all acknowledge that. And I'd like to move the recommendation. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Hutchinson, I think you wanted to say something as well. Yeah, the report mentions 4 houses that will be on an unadopted highway, and they'll have to take the fence to a central point, which will be up to 20 metres. Can you show us on the map the 4 properties that are affected and where the central point will be, just so we can see that? Just 2 other small points. The report mentions bird and bat boxes, which is great news, but can we put in a recommendation for some swift bricks, please? That would be preferable to the bird boxes. And also mentions the fencing that's going to be between the properties and at the rear of the properties. Can we put in a recommendation for some hedgehog highways, please? Thank you.
Yeah, I'll start with the Swift brick. So the wording of the condition can include that. I think the enhancements document that they provided with the application actually proposed that as part of the strategy, so that definitely included. Regarding the hedgehog highways, we can certainly include that in the wording. That's not a problem. So I don't think there's about that any issue with that. regarding the houses that would need to take things to the nearest adoptable highway, so see the two in the bottom right, the drawing, obviously they've got some sort of parking arrangement around there, so things would need to be brought to this point here. It wouldn't be a sort of communal storage area as such, which is that big next point. If I could get down to, and then the other two boxes, there's two boxes up here as well, which are similar arrangements. Again, parking zone, it's only quite a short distance from the front of the properties to the nearest part of the adopted highway. Actually, yeah, apart from that, the properties down here, just thinking actually, there's two properties there, which are also really small distance as well, so I've got to apologise, a slight error in my report, I think it's supposed to be about 6 houses. But all the others could be stayed and about this.
Councillor Bolton, you wanted to?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just three bigger observations. First of all, in relation to Councillor Hutchinson raised the issue of the I think it's a point which has cropped up on previous applications, and I seem to remember members of this committee were quite critical. It's a shame that I was reading the application, it's one thing I thought, everything else seems very good indeed, but not this. I wish developers would do it. The second point is much more positive, and that's the archaeological investigations, which is part of the commission. I think that's much needed. Value. It's a shame some work wasn't done for the community centre was demolished, Mr. Chairman. So maybe we're putting right some should have been done 3 or 4 years ago. And finally, we'll have to ask this as a keen gardener. In some of the associated correspondence, there was a reference to Japanese knotweed on the site. Has that been investigated? Because I would hate to think we're not doing anything about it.
Yeah, so an agricultural method study was essentially submitted for the application. It didn't pick up any findings of the knotweed, but I have, in terms of an informative to the commission, essentially saying that if they do find anything to take action and address it. So it wouldn't be controlled by a commission as such, it would just be informative.
Okay, if there's no other comments, Councillor Brown?
Sorry, Chair, last minute. I was just looking at this drawing and I was thinking about the unadopted highway. Now I can see obviously the two really you said you forgot on there, Charles, that are on the left side of the drawing. But the two down at the kind of the bottom of the L, what would be the reason for that being unadopted as opposed to just continuing that road on just to the end of the houses? I just can't quite understand it. Sorry.
I might not be able to answer that. I imagine it's something to do with the parking layout in front of the properties. There will be a technical reason for it, but I
Okay, thanks. Just echo Councillor Gordon's comments. I do find the unadopted highway situation really frustrating. It's just a shame that developers can't do it.
Okay, so we've got a proposal from Councillor Beer, seconded by Councillor Holland. Shall we take a vote on that? So, everyone for? I think that's everyone, that's unanimous.
Might bring the chairman back.
That would be good, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Chris. Item 6, agenda. Application for major developments, land north of Petter Street. John, I'm near to you.
Thank you, Chair. This application seeks to vary condition 2 of application 21-00952 to allow for the handing of the house on plot 41 and the substitution of house types for plots 39 and 40 at Langdon Pepper Street. So this is the location plan for the overall development site, and with Pepper Street on the sound. This is the plot plan for the northern part of the site. So the three plots which is the altered are located on the western edge. You see on my cursor is there's a tree, and it's these three boxes that surround that. So the layout on the left is the approved scheme at the moment, and the drawing on the right shows the proposed new arrangement. So the property in plot 41 is to be handed, which essentially means that this details are to be flipped around so that the forward gable would now be located on the left side as opposed to the front side of the front elevation. And the house types from 39 and 40 would result in a slight repositioning of those dwellings, but the tree is shown in the rear garden of plot 40 is still to be retained. So the drawing on the left is for the house type for plot 41 as approved, and the drawing on the right shows it once it's been handed. And for plots 39 and 40, as approved, they'll look like the property on the left, and as proposed, it's the drawing on the right. So the new house type that's proposed has been approved in other parts of the development site. Officers consider that the visual changes of the proposal are acceptable. There's no additional impacts on the amenity or highways as a result of the proposed changes. The council's landscape team have no objections to the proposal, therefore subject to conditions to ensure that the tree in the garden of plot 40 is protected. The application is brought to the committee with a recommendation for approval.
Thank you, Charles. There's no speakers on this item. So members, hand it over to you. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, my phone is blinking at me. I think it's neither of the two are switched on. Sorry, Charles. Sorry. Can you hear this? Thank you. Excellent. Within the very narrow space which we have to operate, I'm minded to move the recommendations as printed. It's worth highlighting that this is section 73, is that the one? Yes, I'm getting nods from the officers. This is an amendment to a condition applying to a previously given permission. So we're not entitled to sound on about the wider context of this change, but the change based on what we've heard from our officers seems acceptable, and therefore we ought to move in, second in, pass it. So I'm minded to do that, Chair. Move the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Beard.
Thanks, Chairman. I'd just like to echo what my colleague said. This is a very specific thing. Looking at it and looking at the location of these plots, I don't think this has any significant impact on visual amenity. We retain the tree in the back garden, which I think is a plus as well. So I'm happy to second Councillor Holmes' motion.
Do you have any other members wishing to speak on the site? Okay, in which case, that is formally proposed, formally seconded. Please can I see a show of hands in support of the application as printed? That's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 7 on the agenda is application for major development, land off Market Lane Road, Rochester Homes.
Thanks, Chairman. So this application is the expand permission for condition 2 of a major residential development, land off Market Lane Road in Loggerheads, as to allow for the construction of 2 new domestic garages to serve plots 55 and 56. So this is the location of the site. The blue line shows the extent of the overall development site, and the red line shows the location of the 2 plots to be affected. There's the proposed block plan, which shows the layout of the two garages in context with the dwellings. Garages will be positioned at the end of each of the driveways. Here are the elevational drawings of the new garages. They have a style which matches those of others used in the rest of the site. Got a couple of photos of where the houses are to be built, but the site at the moment is still under construction, so there's not much to look at. So we've received no objections from the Highways Authority. The garages raised no issues with respect to all community or visual impacts. The proposal is therefore voted committee with the regulation group.
Thank you, Charles. Again, there's no speakers on this item. I'll hand to a few members. Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Chair. Same as the previous one, this is an amendment, and whether you like the wider development or not, this is a very specific change. The previous one, it was possible to see from the information you shared with us that the reason for flipping around one of those houses was to avoid a mine shaft, once you've discovered. Do our officers know what the reasoning is behind this application? Not the
I think it's a case where this one is a prospective buyer of the house, one garage to be included as part of the plot layout.
move it, Chair.
Any other councillors wishing to speak?
I'll second.
Thank you, councillor Bryden. Any other councillors wishing to speak on this item? Okay. And again, it leaves me to say that formally proposed and seconded. Can I see a show of hands, please, in support of this application as printed? Thank you. That's unanimous also. Moving on to agenda item 8. Application for minor development, International House, Stubbsgate, Newcastle-under-Lyme. I believe from break from Jonathan and Cheryl. And the two Rachel.
Bring that chair, so we can hear, we couldn't hear any of that.
Thank you, Chair. This application seeks full planning permission for the change of use of an existing office building to a homeless hub and HMO, house of multiple occupation, shelter for homeless people. So you see the location plan on the screen. So Stubbsgate is here. This is the Morrison's is over here, and number 1 London Road development is there. So this is so the proposal would involve a transfer of existing services which are currently run at the Salvation Army on Bridge Street, Newcastle. That's the homeless hub, and Merrill Street in Newcastle. That's the residential accommodation. So this is the proposed site plan. Existing access here into the site, vehicular access. There's an existing car park there. There are 10 spaces there currently, but there'll be 9 for the proposed use because the bin store is to be put in place there, which takes up one of the existing spaces. So there'll be the external changes to the building are very minimal, and therefore there'll be no impact on the character and appearance of the building. So this is the ground floor of the building. So there's 2 elements to it. The first one is the hub here, which would provide hot meals, showers and laundry facilities along with visiting services for homeless people to access it in one place. And then the other part of the building here and the first floor would be the HMO which would comprise 12 bedrooms and shared lounge and kitchen facilities. So that's showing the first floor, so you can see the majority of the bedrooms are 2 downstairs, and then the kitchen and lounge facilities. So these are the elevations of the building, which, as I say, have changed very little from the existing. So the homeless hub, the service would be managed by the Borough Council, Rough Sleeper and Homelessness team. The hub would have 6 members of staff, and the proposed hours of opening are 9 till 5, Monday to Friday. But the applicant has advised that it's likely that it would be open for a maximum of up to 2 hours a day. The longer opening hours requested are to allow some degree of flexibility, because the needs can change with the seasons, depending on the weather. But generally, it would be anticipated that it'd be open for 2 hours a day. So the residential elements would have 2 members of staff on site at all times, with security present at night. Access would be controlled both at the external gates and at the building entrances, and residents would have to call security prior to being permitted to enter or to leave the building. The building would have CCTV in all communal areas, both indoor and outdoor, which would be monitored by the staff. So Staffordshire Police have been consulted as part of the application process, and they stated that from a practicality, functionality perspective, there are a large number of positives with the proposals. They commend the proposed security measures, including CCTV, staff and security controlled access to residential areas, and the presence of security personnel at night, in addition to staff members. They conclude that essentially from a building and site practicality perspective, there would appear to be very little that could be viewed as negative. And indeed, there are potentially a large number of positive aspects that would appear to be well suited to the proposed function of the building and the site. So just to show you a few photos of the building. So that's from Stubbs Gate. That's looking back along Stubbs Gate in the other direction. Again, looking back towards, that's the Boat and Horses public house there on the corner. Number 1 London Road, which is opposite the site. That's the existing gates into the car park area. That's within the site, that's an access into the inner courtyard area of the building. And that's the existing car park. So given the positive comments of the police, it's not considered that there is any sound justification for objecting to the application on the grounds of the potential impact on the incidence of crime and disorder, and therefore the application is recommended for approval. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel. I'm aware of one public speaker that we have, Andy Bailey. Would you like to take a seat here? Very much. Allocated 5 minutes. At the end of 4 minutes, you'd be reminded.
Yes, I'll try to keep it as short as I can. Just apologies, I'm not used to public speaking, so
You need to
bear with me.
press the button in front of you
Oh, sorry.
and switch it off when you finish.
Right. Can you hear me there? Yeah. I'm not really used to this.
You may begin.
My name's Andrew Bailey. I'm 57 years old. I live at number 12 Stubbs Gate, next door to International House. I've lived there for 40 years next year. Just firstly, I just like to raise a few questions what other residents have asked me, and I'm sorry if I've missed anybody's questions or anything. Some people wanted to ask about the security policy of the premises. Will people be able to turn up in various states of intoxication and gain access? What will happen if they're turned away? Will they be wandering the streets?
Yeah, we will.
CCTV coverage, will that be covering the streets as well, or just the building itself? The complaints procedure, what happens about people can complain about any antisocial behaviour or anything that happens. A few of the objections were obviously antisocial behaviour, violence, unfortunately, which often comes with these places, drug use, drug dealing, littering, noise and general disturbance. And a lot of the residents seem to think the whole thing sort of being railroaded through without properly consultation. But one letter each.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I've allowed you to come forward so you can listen to what's being said.
This is the
Please.
planning committee with the public.
This is the
to be able
planning
to
committee.
speak our mind.
You're not allowed to take part in the debate. You only need to observe. Otherwise, you have to identify that you want to speak beforehand. So there'll be no shouting, no debate from the audience, please.
Gone through, I know. Yeah.
So just my personal objections, obviously, because I'm living next door to the property, my garden opens out into the courtyard of International House, which echoes all around my garden. Obviously, the residents will be smoking there and swearing and carrying on. I look after my grandson on school holidays and the like, we like to garden, and I think that'll have to be curtailed because of this proposal. And just really in conclusion, that there might be light at the end of the tunnel for some of these people, fair enough. But for us, there's no light at the end of the tunnel for us. Our security and peace of mind and has been sacrificed for this project. There'll be a blight to the area. We all know. We can go on YouTube and look at any of these places on YouTube and see what happens. That's it really. Just it's a place we call home, and it's going to be ruined.
Just because you want moving out of town towards.
Thank you, Mr. Bailey. You may finish with it. I was just wish to come back on the representation. Over to you, members.
Is there anybody there representing us?
No, they haven't shown up.
Councillor Bryan.
Thank you, Chair. I heard in the report that it was going, sorry. I heard in the report that it was going to be 2 full-time members of staff there. And obviously there was 12 bedrooms, I think. Is that sufficient, do we think? Is that normal? Can you give me any background on that, please?
We have actually got 2 officers here who are actually overseeing this project, so if members are happy for them to answer your questions, they'll be able to do so better than me.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Christelle and the lead for obviously running homelessness for Newcastle Borough Council. In terms of the 2 members for the accommodation, that will oversee the accommodation side in the day. We'll also have that'll have 6 members of staff, so altogether there'll be 8 on site. We don't foresee that people will be staying within their residence during the day. They'll be coming into the property to access support, etc. And just going out and about during the day. So in terms of the places
Excuse me,
in
please.
terms of other supported provider accommodation that we've looked at, they tend to have 2 similar numbers, if not more. So yes.
Thank you. And sorry, Chair, I'm okay to ask one more question.
Go ahead.
Do we have any statistics on the in terms of antisocial behaviour in the current situations where they are at the moment?
Don't have any statistics. We don't have any provision like this within the borough, so this is new for us. But within other areas, I can certainly look into that. It's not something we've looked in before. What I can tell you is that we currently already have a hub that's been running since September 2022, and we have very minimal in terms of violence or anything like that. It runs the Salvation Army, and you are all welcome to attend. You are all welcome to get to see the cohort that we work with. And it isn't just those that will sleep or homeless. We also provide for provision for those that are vulnerable, for those that are suffering with mental health, for those that are lonely within their accommodation. So it's for those that are housed and not just for those that are rough sleeping. To give you an idea of the number of rough sleepers we have in the area, it's around 6. So yes, we have 12 rooms, but that's to accommodate those who are coming out of hospital, those that are suffering with mental health, that have the need for that kind of provision. And we're only looking to house people there 12 to 18 months maximum to give them that wraparound support so we can integrate them back into the community and use them on. So it's not a permanent house.
That's it now, thank you.
Councillor Holland and Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to give the residents who attended tonight the fair shake. One of the issues that was raised is the concern that this council, that the applicant, that is this borough council, and in person of our officers who are here, very grateful to you for coming tonight, is seeking to move facility out of the town centre into a residential area. So Merrill Street, Salvation Army Centre. These two separate facilities are being co-located, and while moving it from one part of the town into another part of the town is not itself a relevant planning concern, the co-location it's a new thing, it's not been done before, and as our officers have already advised us, there are going to be more bedrooms on site than we have almost ever in my time as a borough councillor had sleeping rough in our town centre. Could our officers explain to us a little bit more about why this change is being made and what the benefits to the wider area are? If I may close, Councillor Northcott, by saying I'm slightly disappointed that we're not joined tonight by either of the councillors from the town board who would be best placed to know the area. However, my ward begins at Brook Street where it crosses the Lyme Brook, and my residents will share some of the concerns about antisocial behaviour to the south of the town centre that have been expressed by our speaker tonight. So if our officers could give us a little bit of information that might reassure us when we're making the decision on planning grounds about the motivation for this, what that co-location of those facilities is going to do. Because I mean, one of the things might be, and we have heard before, we don't expect to see people who are receiving homelessness relief services staying at their accommodation all day. But I tell you what we do observe, we observe them leaving their accommodation and causing antisocial behaviour in and around our town centre. It's not something that I want to see imported or exported into any area, although I appreciate completely the delicacy of the situation, very vulnerable people that this impacts. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holland.
No, I do appreciate what you are saying. We're not trying to bring any more people into the town centre. We're trying to support the ones that are currently here. So the ones that you are seeing already bedded down in the town centre, they are the ones we're trying to support and trying to pick them up and provide them with that provision. Whereas we have a service that have a team of 6, and whereas they work extremely hard to find that provision, we don't have enough street offer, and this is where we fail. This is why we can't reduce that number. This is why we can't get those off the street to provide them with that support, because we don't have that offer as a borough. We don't have our own housing stock. We don't have anywhere that we can pick up people and provide them with that wraparound support that they need. I know there is a stigma with these individuals, and I know people just see behaviours and don't understand the actual individuals, but please come along to the hubs that we have currently. Please come and get to know the customers and the cohort and what we provide. We have 22 agencies that come to the hub. Those are varying from drug and alcohol services, from mental health services, from other supported accommodation, and we have a nurse that as well. We also have the college that come and they provide kind of holistic approach in terms of they do haircuts and things like that with the students. It's a way for them to understand what the need is, and then to understand that actually these people that you see, yes, they might be behaving in certain ways, but there are reasons for it, and they understand the traumas that they've come from. So it's a whole host of things. And the reason that we need this is that we will never reduce anything within the town centre. We will never reduce ASB in the town centre. We will never, unless we actually are proactive and we do something. We don't have this provision. We need this provision, and that's why we're doing this.
I was just going to write about the co-location. That at the moment, the premises that we are operating from are not our premises as the council. So where we would like to take this project is in having our own premises that we can invest in, we can develop, deliver those services. So it is about bringing them together so that we've got all those services in one place, one provision.
Thank you, Councillor John Williams. Councillor Lee.
Can I ask this question? Where is the hub that they're located from?
The hub is currently at Salvation Army in Bridge Street.
It's my understanding that that premises just there's meals.
So we've been running there since September 2022. Yes, we offer food, but we also offer support and signposting. So like I said, we have drug and alcohol services there, we have a nurse, we have mental health, we have various supportive accommodation providers. So there's a whole host of providers that attend.
Thanks, Chairman. I certainly can't vote for this application because of the lack of information. And the lack of information is the impact in the local area. And I'd like to see a site visit that's been deferred. Individual councillors, not in mass, going to visit pubs in the city. Between there was of 1800 and 1900 to see the residents or residents going to use these premises. And that will reflect on Stubbs Gate. We want to see what's actually happening. They'll take the officers' point on Bridge Street. I know the visitors in Bridge Street or something. Because people linger with these alcohol and drug problems, linger in the area. In my experience, it was the same thing will happen in Stubbs Gate. The police talking about security, building a fortress. Fortress of when people can't get in, what they're going to do. And when you go for it, it's exactly what the problem is. There's a need for these, I agree 100%. And not all, you won't solve all of the slippers, for someone want to be. What we need something like this. But the impact on the area, that's my concern. I said that Lisa said, yes, all security within the building. I'm sure the management within the building will be top quality. But outside of the building. And I'm really surprised at the police not bringing this their report. You're not talking, you're talking about the building themselves, but we all know on planning, that's what we're here for. But the impact of this particular building, particularly homeless home, on the area. So I'll leave it to that, but I'd like, Mr. Chairman, to be declared, as I said, to each member, and leave it to their honesty, as we go and visit the hubs in the city, provide their addresses, and then come back to the committee and then make a judgment on down Stubbs Gate. Yeah. And it's going against the policy, it says against the policy of the West Side visits, but we all go en masse. I think it'd be better if we get individually, we went and visited these particular homeless homes in the city, see exactly what's going on. Thank you.
To address a couple of points, sorry. So in terms of businesses within Bridge Street, we have we get on real well with them. They do fundraising for us and things like that, you know. So we've never had any complaints from the businesses. If complaints have gone elsewhere, then that's not something I'm aware of. We do have good relations within there. In terms of CCTV and security and things on the streets, we will have CCTV on the streets overlooking all around. Onto Stubbs Gate and by the roundabout and number 1 London Road, that's already planned to go ahead. We will also have security in the hub on the day so that they will be standing outside to make sure that there is no loitering and all that. We've got everything in place. I appreciate the residents feeling the way they are. It's not something they want on their doorstep. We're not trying to cause issues. We're trying to minimise the risk. We've got everything we can in place to make sure that it has a minimal and a negative impact on the right of residents as much as possible. So all those things must be taken into consideration.
Just before I take any more questions, Officer Black to respond on this part.
Yeah, just wanted to respond to Councillor Williams' comments on the comments from the police. We did actually have comments from the police in relation to two aspects. One was the crime design advisor that we have comments from regularly. And so the majority of the comments that you can see set out within the report on from him. But then the final paragraph of that does say that in terms of the facility suitability and the wider context, the local policing team, and I actually received an email from the local police commander stating that they have been made aware of the proposal and that they work well in partnership with the local authority and all partners to mitigate threat and harm and to help reduce crime and antisocial behaviour. So the comments aren't just about the design of the building, they're about the suitability of the use within that area.
Thank you, Rachel. Councillor Beard.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. This is a very awkward application, isn't it? I visited the current hub on Bridge Street earlier this year, and I must say I thought it was very well organised. I didn't see any trouble at that point. What I would be interested in is we're talking about this thing being open 2 hours a day. Just for the relevant officers concerned to talk us through when those hours would be and indeed what happens afterwards, because I can well understand the residents being concerned about this place in the evening. What happens when someone tries to introduce someone who's not entitled to enter? What happens to them? And again, this is the important thing. I mean, within the building, I have little doubt that things will be secure. My concern is what policies are in place to ensure that that security extends beyond the building. Now, we've heard from the officer that there will be CCTV. One would hope that will be CCTV of the highest resolution. So if there is a malefactor out there, they can be identified and dealt with. But I am disappointed, as my colleague Councillor Holland is, that we do not have the ward councillors here to give us the details of this. I'm equally disappointed, actually, that we don't have a representative of the police here this evening. Their report is extremely fulsome. Now, it's perfectly the case that trust in the police has diminished across the country in recent times. Having made this, I'd like to have been reassured by having a representative of the police here to tell us what they would do were antisocial behaviour to break out. How quickly would such a person who's outside causing trouble be removed from that area, rather than being left there to cause trouble? And it is difficult to come to a decision without having some more detail in that regard. So I would be grateful if we could be taken through, if you like, the 24 hours operation of such a place. But I am concerned that we don't have the detail for how the policing of the locality would happen were trouble to break out. And I can see that trouble appearing in a variety of ways, people trying to gain access and not being able to get in. Where do they go? What happens at that point? People trying to introduce individuals into that building who are not going to be got in there, and indeed other problems associated with this on the street. One other thing that strikes me is we talk about security. When we talk about security, what sort of personnel are we talking about? Are we talking about people who are qualified security guards who are capable of dealing with these problems, or are we just talking about council employees who are there on a regular basis? If so, I think this council again owes a duty of care to those individuals. That's a question that really needs to be raised.
Thank you, Councillor Beard.
In terms of security, a 12-year security permit won't be a us. So the security in the day will be on site for 2 hours. Currently, we open at Bridge Street in the mornings. We're looking to do the same moving forward. The only reason we put 9 to 5 is, again, in the winter, if the weather is cold, depending on that, we may open a little bit later and maybe open until 2 in the afternoon. But again, it will be 2 hours. The security will be on there from the security firm. not one of us. It will be an additional person. In terms of police, we tend to, at the hub at the moment, the police attend there all the time in terms of PCSOs for community engagement. They tend to attend there as well, just to kind of just, for engagement, see how things are. So they drop in constantly. We have really good relationships with the police. Security at night, just to make it clear, residents can't just come and go. The gates are on a buzzer system, which will be again by a video intercom. They have to buzz in to be let in. And again, in order to access provision, they have to buzz in to be let in. So it's not just I would be able to come and go and bring someone. It doesn't work like that. And that's not what we're looking at doing. The security at night will be from a security firm, not a member, hence the 2 members of staff separate from the security firm. Again, all the CCTV we're looking at putting will be of the highest resolution. And again, we've got that relationship with the partnership with the police, and that we can follow the channels that we need to, and that we're in talks with them should we need any assistance they can come out to us.
Can I just come back briefly on that, Mr. Chairman, if I may? So let's just go back again to the evening. I mean, and if you could talk us through this buzzer system. So somebody has to buzz to come in. Are they going to be allowed in if they are in a state of inebriation? If they are not, what happens to them then? Because I can see the residents' concern that someone comes along, they are refused access to this facility, they are in a bad state already, then presumably they become angry, and then they're wandering around the street. And that I can see is a legitimate concern. And again, this is where I would have liked a little bit more from people like the police force to ask, is there then a protocol whereby the police are informed that somebody's outside this thing but cannot be admitted? So that the police are aware that there's a potential public order question there. So, are those protocols in place? What do the police do about this? Those, I think, are entirely legitimate questions.
In terms of people coming in under the influence, they wouldn't be turned away because they are the providers that will run the accommodation will be trained in dealing with that, and they are there to help and support, but be trying to understand why they're under the influence, if they are safe, if they need any support, if there's medical support, so they will not be turned away. They will be buzzed in and they will be assessed on site. If for any reason that they cannot stay, then the police will be called. So I will listen to the police and putting a plan together, robust plan in terms of having more monitoring around the area and things like that. We're not just going to have this and just happen just coming and going at this. It's not free or all.
You just said
Please.
I'm sorry, it's a voting subject.
It is a voting clause, I understand that, but if you're interfering with the process in the meeting and trying to get to conclusion. No, you're not. You're allowed to write, you're allowed to make your objections, you're allowed to make an application to speak. You cannot debate the subject from the gallery.
So what's the point you can hear then? Well, you can, but we can't.
So you can observe, it's not a free for all, otherwise you wouldn't be able to manage the meeting. So the last time, can I please ask you to just refrain from shouting out from the audience, please? Otherwise, I'm going to ask you to leave.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'm an ex-director of number one.
I'm sorry, I can't allow
answer quite a few questions.
participation. I'm very sorry. That time has passed. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may speak to Councillor Williams's idea of deferral here, I think perhaps the most important thing, the officer has just referred to developing a set of security protocols and such like. I suspect that quite a few members here would be very interested in seeing those protocols, which may assuage some of the doubts they have in their minds. It would seem to me that potentially that is a way forward. Again, I look for comment from other members, but that to me seems to be, at the moment, we have a recommendation, which is a rather bland one, isn't it? I think it's recommendation number 6. My phone's gone off now. I'm afraid it goes off after a couple of minutes. So I'll bring it back on again. But I think, that's not fleshed out for us here. Potentially, it seems to me that maybe that will be something which will assuage a lot of concerns were it to be made much clearer and much further. As I say, I look for colleagues' comments on that.
Thank you, councillor Clear. I'll take your points on board. I'm getting through the list of people who want to ask questions. Councillor Beeston. Councillor Holmes, no.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to ask about consultation with the residents, how much consultation is actually being done. And if the residents do want to speak about it, then perhaps we need to have a public meeting.
In terms of the planning application itself, we've carried out the consultation that complies with legislation and with the council's statements of community involvement. So a site notice was posted outside the site, which is the standard publicity for an application of this nature. And that gives a period of 21 days for comments to be submitted. So we've received about just under 40 letters of objection from nearby residents, and they've all been summarised within the committee report. So we've complied with the publicity that we should do. In terms of any public consultation meeting, that would be for the applicant to arrange or to decide to have. It would be outside of the planning process.
If you're looking at the planning application to the committee, you'll see where it's on the ground, it's on the floor.
Thank you.
Picture up, show the committee the picture of your plan.
Thank you very much.
Look at your photograph. Look at your photograph.
Thank you very much for your participation. I understand it's very difficult, but we need to get through this and manage this process, please.
Look at your photograph and just say that.
Councillor, can I take Councillor Gordon, please? I'll come back to you, Councillor Bryan, you've already spoken.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Beeston, you got a follow?
Yeah. I've had the pleasure of working with the homeless. Night shelter worker for a year, and I do recognise the value of what the team want to do. But I think there's always an overspill to the surrounding area. And Stubbsgate is an area of quite high density housing. They also have the Lyme Trust to cope with. In my opinion, it's a fantastic idea, but the wrong place.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Beeston. Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a difficult application, isn't it? Because it's not strictly, trying to apply planning rules and regulations and policies. Something really that doesn't entirely fit it seems to me. And I want you to speak very much in support of Councillor John Williams' suggestion, not just the deferment for additional information, but I think the idea of actually going out and having a look at some of the facilities in the city. Because one of the issues that we've got, it seems to me, is that in Newcastle, you're bringing together what up to date has been two separate sort of services, bringing together the residential and then the hub. And my guess is really that's not been tried before. And it's very difficult, I think, to try and answer the genuine concern that people have, is that this is going to have a really bad impact on the area. It's going to lead to antisocial behaviour and more crime. And, I don't know, those are the sort of gut feelings that we have, but it would be interesting to talk to some professionals away from Newcastle, just to see if that's actually the case. Is that justified? I can appreciate the concern that people have, because I think it will be a change in the area. I think Councillor Beeston is perfectly correct to raise the issue of the Lyme Trust, and we're going to have too great a concentration in a very narrow geographical area, these types of services. So I hope the committee will give very favourable consideration to Councillor John Williams' suggestion that we actually defer for further information and visits.
Councillor Jill Williams.
Thank you, Chair. Not has been said what I was going to say, but this is totally the wrong area. It's a built-up area. It shouldn't even be close to the town. If we have these, if we keep these, it'll be out of the town with all the support we've got. All this is going to do is be an end-of-life family with hundreds of people coming in because they know that facility is there and they will be able to use it. There's not enough staff. We can't run it. When we run out of funding, what happens? And we do rely on an awful lot of funding to keep these places going. Yeah. We all know that disappears.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Bryan.
Thank you, Chair. I was just wondering, in relation to planning regulations, whether there is any distances that are meant to be between this type of establishment and residential dwellings. Is there anything that protects us in terms of if we were to refuse the application, is there any grounds to do so?
There's certainly nothing set out anywhere that says that you need to have X amount of distance between residential dwellings and this type of use. So if members were looking to refuse the application, they would have to suggest what reasons there would be for doing that. And my impression from hearing the conversation is that it would be an impact on residential amenity of the occupiers of the existing dwellings. But it would be, presumably, it would need to be quite specific because it's about the perceived concerns about crime and unsocial behaviour. So when we're refusing an application, we need to be substantiating that with evidence. So that's what members would have to think about, is whether there is sufficient evidence, given that we've had the comments from the police that they are supportive of the proposal, whether there is evidence to substantiate those concerns.
If I went back to my original question, which was about statistics in terms of the current arrangements, I think officers said they would be able to get some more information on that. I think that might be helpful if we do defer and request more information. That might help either way.
Councillor Holland.
Thank you, Chair. I have a few thoughts. Apologies if they don't come out in a coherent or logical order. I suppose the first thing I'll be going to say is I'm surprised to hear Councillor Mrs. Williams speak in what I consider a very uncompassionate way about very vulnerable people and the services this council provides, and also about the service that our officers at this authority are supporting. This is not some other council that's proposing this. This is our own officers, and I am shocked to hear certain councillors tonight say what they've said. Now that won't earn me applause from the audience, but I feel very strongly that it needs to be said. We know, no, Councillor has had her chance to speak, and she will have another chance to speak if she wants to. We know why these facilities are proposed in and around town centres. It's because that's where the rough sleepers are. We are providing services close to where those people need those services. The councillor knows it because she's a very venerable member of this authority. She's been on it for a very long time. So that is why I'm disappointed to hear her say what she has said. In relation to deferral, I hear what Councillor has said, I hear what Councillor Williams has said, I've heard what Councillor Fear has said. Again, I don't wish to put on individual members of this committee, but they know the planning protocol. They know that you cannot defer an application in order to conduct individual site visits to a different site. We've been invited by our officers to see the services in other locations. I am certain that through their partnership with other authorities, we will be able to do the same if we wish to in our time as councillors. However, if we're deferring tonight, we have to defer on a sound basis for a reason that's in accordance with authority. So we can, if we want, defer it to conduct a site visit to this site, the proposed site. I am agnostic as to whether or not that's a good idea. I'm not sure I will learn anything from a site visit that I don't already know. But I recall what Councillor Fear said about the recommendation condition 16, which relates to details of security measures. Now, we've heard our officer refer to those and to say that they need to be developed. I'm inclined to agree with her and with Councillor Fear and say that we as a committee, I think, and me as an individual councillor certainly, would feel more confident voting on a recommendation if we had those details pinned down for us. We're in a fortunate position that the applicant is this authority, so it'd be more cordial for us to defer on that basis than it might be for another applicant. And of course, it doesn't guarantee that we're going to create an outcome that the residents who joined us tonight will want to hear. It does mean, however, that we'll be better informed if we vote on this at a later date. Now, we've heard already that the police, in full possession of all the facts, have not objected to this. They've given comments that are broadly supportive of what's proposed. So it is very difficult for us as a committee to sustain a refusal on the grounds of crime and antisocial behaviour. But our officer is bang on when she says that residential amenity is at the heart of this. I think that's residential amenity both to the neighbours and residential amenity to the residents who are going to be living next door to the hub, which is a separate thing, but co-located on the same site. And I would like, as Councillor Fear and others, to have those security details, to have those policies and that programme to reassure me that we're not going to be voting through something that is going to create harm to that residential amenity. So if we're not satisfied when we see details of those, I'm sure members of the committee will vote against. And I think lastly, one thing we will be looking at when we revisit this, and I'm assuming that at this point we are very likely to defer, one thing we will want to look at is whether or not this site is in principle suitable for a facility of this kind. I'm not convinced of that, but I've heard what Councillor Beeston has said, for example. So there is an argument to be said that we might be opposing, rejecting this on the basis that it is the wrong location. But for me, it's residential amenity, and I would want to see at the very least details of that security, because Councillor Pearce laid out much more eloquently than I could. Individual sort of, you can run through in your head how that might work and how that might be bad for the people who live there, bad for the neighbours, the residents who already live there. So I'm minded to second Councillor Pearce's proposal for deferral on that ground, laying aside Councillor Williams. Is that right? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Holland. Councillor John Williams, and I'll take that to the final.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Holland is great at criticising other councillors, what they say. I don't know what's behind that. Quite upsetting. I didn't move. Referral on the grounds of getting more information. And what I did say is, members go individually or in pairs to visit the sites. If we go as a council, as a full planning committee to a particular site, I'm sure that news will get out and we will not get a true picture of what's happening or what does happen outside these. So that information, before I can vote on this, I need that information. They're sure the police, staff of police, and those particular areas, have got that information. We've got the statistics to say if there's a problem. Not the police, the planning liaison officer, discussed from and talked about a particular building and nothing else. We need that information if there's any problems in the other hubs within the city. And when we vote for or against, have to be up to this committee, the individual members to vote on that. But before we do, I feel we should have the information, go on site, visit to in particular I know, visit them at different times, or sorry, this time of the day is at 6 o'clock at night. Go and see what's actually happening and get information from there, policing people, the police who police that area. There's statistics supposed to be there. So I didn't move with you. Deferment. And if Councillor Holland's on to second that, that's no problem at all about any what's in there. So I'd like to move deferment. Thank you.
The reasons already been said from Councillor P and Councillor Holland. I think that's already been covered in terms of the proposal.
All the other facts are right.
I can't support the individual members having to go and visit pubs. That would be against the constitutional planning committee rules. But I am mindful of the deferment. And I think taking on board all the questions that's been raised, all the issues that have been raised, I'm happy to go with the proposal from Councillor P and the second Councillor Holland on the basis that we look for a management plan protocol, particularly the management of antisocial behaviour. We look towards police to attend the next meeting that this is heard, for reassurance both for yourselves and also for residents that they have an adequate plan in place to support a service such as this. Any information that's additional, such as impact statistics and whether this is suitable in principle. And also I've raised another issue that I think is important, the health impact assessment, which will test out our new policy in terms of looking at an impact of development on an area. Our councillors happy to support that deferral on the basis of those 6 points that I just mentioned. Councillor P and Councillor Holland.
The answer is yes, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned this, which I was going to raise had you not done so, but I do think if we vote for a deferral now, that a letter penned by yourself to the police force, we clearly cannot compel them, they're a separate entity, to attend the next meeting. But we have talked this evening about community engagement, and it seems to be very clear that appropriate community engagement would be for an officer to attend a future meeting where this was debated again to explain the police's policy on this. So as long as such a letter was penned by your good self to the local police, inviting them and indeed urging them to attend such a meeting, I will be happy to continue.
Thank you, Councillor Fear, and I'd look for your support as a joint letter. I think that shows a joint stance on this, being your planning portfolio holder. That's okay. So, members, you've heard the formal recommendation of deferment on those points I've mentioned. Plus, I'm prepared to write to police, then urge them and ask them to come to the next planning committee meeting that this is aired at. Can I please see a support of this or not? By show of hands. And that's unanimous. This item is deferred. Thank you. Thank you all for your attendance this evening. You may wish.
Anybody wants to come and handle it where we live. We're all countries in here. This town belongs to all, not just two councils. We don't know their behalf.
Make sure I'd be like that, Chair. They should be ashamed.
It's because the next week, right? I should be ashamed of bring something like that. Every meeting you go to, you just like, oh, you feel like it's showing. You're talking to God, I don't think it's a shame. You make me something.
No, it was a short street, this is the town, it's right behind the building, built with that. And then the garden wall there, so it's off. Yeah, that's so sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor
Just a point of clarification, Chair, just for my own guidance. There, I take it there is nothing to stop individual councillors from this committee getting in touch with services in the city to make the decision. As long as we don't call it a site visit. Not as, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say there's nothing to stop you doing that. But obviously each place is very different, so it would only be of relevance if it was directly comparable to the one that's proposed here. And obviously you're only seeing it as a snapshot in time, aren't you? So how helpful it will be, I don't know.
I think it's exciting. That's a lot of visits actually.
Yeah.
I've been involved.
You want to say something?
No, just what you said in terms of that there isn't anything similar over at the city. By all means, you can go and try to visit, but it's hard to compare something that's going to be very different and run very different, and the whole site is very different to other sites. So it's just keeping that in mind. By all means, I'm not saying no. I can happily recommend some, providers and places you can go and see, but I don't know if I'm comparing it a pear with an orange. It's just bizarre to me, but by all means, do what we need to do.
Can we have this discussion offline, please? Because I'm aware this has been recorded.
Yeah. Whatever you need.
Councillor Beeston, is it pressing that you have a question now?
Can I ask a quick one, if that's okay? The residential accommodation, there's nothing to compare it with at the moment, is there? Or is there? What do you mean? Well, we've still seen Mariel Street, is that just for us sleepers?
Can we have this conversation offline?
Okay.
Yeah, we need to carry on with business, please. I'm aware that this item's in hers. Thank you. Application for minor developments. Agenda item 9, pages 66 on your agenda pack. The Wyoming Lower Mile House Lane.
Chair. So this application is a resubmission of a scheme that was approved last year for the construction of a new sports pavilion in association with playing fields at the Whammy on Lower Mile House Road. Lower Mile House Lane, sorry. So this is the site. Members are probably all aware of it. On Lower Mile House Lane here, these are the playing fields. It's an existing car park there. Morrison's is just there. So the application has been made as a result of a change to the positioning of the building, along with alterations to the existing car park to provide additional disabled parking bays. So the scheme on the right is the previously approved scheme. So you can see there the very limited distance between the rear elevation of the building and the boundary of the properties. And this is the amended scheme. So that distance there is being increased. And then the other change is here to the existing car parking arrangement. So there's 2 disabled bays in there and 2 there. So the building as proposed remains exactly as per the design, appearance and scale as previously approved, which you can see there on the screen. The only change relates to the siting of the building, with it moving a further 1.5 metres from the southern boundary of the site. This change would appear minor and wouldn't have any wider implications on the character or appearance of the wider locality. Proposed changes would move the rear elevation further away from the boundary with properties on St Bernard's Road. It was previously accepted that due to the single-storey nature of the building, the proposals would be acceptable. So the movement of the building would in fact create a greater separation from the developments in this rear boundary. So given the minor nature of the changes, the scheme is recommended for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. There's no persons wishing to speak on this item. Over to you, members. Councillor Williams, and followed by Councillor Freer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah. Got two questions really. The extension is the car park being extended, or you put it in sale property. And also the fencing, if you're going to come away all the way from the boundary with houses in St. Bernard's Road. Will you be securing it with a fence? And that's the question of the original plan application. And it should say we will be putting park railings 2 meters high or whatever it's, 2 meters high around the building. Because of the area where it is, it's sort of what the antisocial behaviour. So really that needs to be clarified. And also on the extension of the car, as in extension of the car.
There is no extension proposed to the car park. If you look at those two plans there, you can see that the extension of the car park is identical. It's just purely the engineering works to make sure that the space is bigger for disabled users. And then in terms of the fencing, within the residential community section of the report, it says that security fencing has been maintained and extended to address the movement of the building further away from the rear boundary at the site. So yeah, that's.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Freer.
Thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm just effectively echoing some things raised by Councillor Williams and my perennial gripe about retrospective applications. Wouldn't it be nice if they'd have asked us beforehand? In this regard, I think there's not a lot to worry about. In fact, if anything, it's a mild planning gain, perhaps, from the separation. What does slightly concern me, perhaps, is the area behind the rear of this building and the residence fence at the back of their gardens. These sort of areas, particularly this one, I think, away to some degree from public sites, is perhaps a flashpoint for some sort of antisocial behaviour. I'm just wondering whether, some cheerful planting of gorse bushes or other prickly substances might not be a good idea.
Thank you, Councillor Freer. Any other members wishing to speak? In that case, Councillor Freer, are you able to propose this?
Oh, I'm happy to do that. I just with perhaps the right of that, our landscape team might give some idea to what's going to go in that little area. Because it would be a shame for a nice thing then to have an area behind it which was full of cans. It wouldn't be very nice, of course, for the householders to the rear either. So just a little bit of thought perhaps about that extra space that's been created there.
Excellent recommendation, Councillor Freer. I'm happy for the chair to second that. I'm sure our officers have made a note of that, so thank you very much for that suggestion. Are members content to support the proposal? Second, if so, please show of hands in agreement. Thank you. That's unanimous. That is passed. Condition 5, particularly gorse bushes. Okay, item number 10 is 5 Boggs Cottage. It's an old favourite. Do you have any updates? No updates forthcoming. I believe that there's an update coming in the next time this comes into committee in 2 meetings time, which members will be appraised of the present situation and the plan involved. So we're content to keep this on the agenda. Let's see a show of hands and support that, please. Thank you. That's unanimous. This 2 meetings time. Thank you. Urgent business. I have no urgent business. Any urgent business? Business. No disclosure of any exact information. I'll just have a quick word with you all once the meeting has been closed. So adjourn the meeting for closure now. So this ends tonight's planning committee meeting. Thanks for those joining us at home. Those for tuning in. Thank you. Have a safe journey. Good night.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.